Tonight, Anthony Albanese left red-faced by a damaging slip-up on day one. School holiday havoc at Melbourne Airport with warnings it could last for weeks. Northern and western suburbs facing a garbage backlog as workers prepare to strike. A police officer accused of driving at 230 kilometres per hour on duty. Ferrari fans paint Lygon Street red as the GP puts Melbourne back on the map. And later, a Hawthorn legend's critical test. John Platten caught up in football's time bomb.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Peter Mitchell starts now.
Good evening. Anthony Albanese has suffered a damaging blow on day one of the election campaign, forced to apologise over an embarrassing gaffe. The Labor leader was left red-faced when he was unable to name the current cash or unemployment rates.
There are campaign moments that come and go.
Our next PM. Hi.
It's a full-strength proof on the economy.
And then there are campaign moments that stick. This is one of them.
What's the national unemployment rate?
National unemployment rate at the moment is, I think it's 5.4. Sorry, I'm not sure what it is.
The alternative Prime Minister already defending accusations he lacks economic know-how, unable to nominate one of the leading indicators, quoted constantly in parliamentary debates and the media. His finance spokeswoman had no trouble.
The unemployment rate's at 4%.
A similar issue with recalling the Reserve Bank's official interest rate.
We can do the old Q&A stuff over 50
but
different.
Do you know it?
Over 50 different figures.
There were plenty of Qs, but he refused to provide a single A. And Scott Morrison.
Can you nominate the cash rate and the unemployment rate?
Well, 0.1% is the cash rate. The unemployment rate, I'm happy to tell you, was 4% and is falling to a 50-year low.
Resisting the urge to stick the boot into his opponent, who, within 3 hours, issued an apology with a sting in the tail.
Earlier today, I made a mistake. I'm human. But when I make a mistake, I'll fess up to it and I'll set about correcting that mistake. I won't blame someone else, I'll accept responsibility.
Earlier, head-to-head on 7 Sunrise, if only briefly. Interviewed one after the other, Scott Morrison emphasising the economy.
Well, this election is a choice between the proven economic and financial management of my government and a Labor opposition that is unproven, untested and unknown.
But facing his own test over reports Education Minister Alan Tudge's former press secretary, with whom he had a long affair, will be paid more than $500,000 compensation after an investigation into her allegations of bullying and harassment. Yet Mr Tudge remains technically a member of his cabinet.
We held an independent investigation into that matter and there was nothing found that would see Mr Tudge not being able to continue on in the role.
With the first news poll of this campaign showing Labor still well ahead, Scott Morrison knows that for him this election remains far from in the can. Labor's primary down 1 to 37, the Coalition 36, Labor leading 53-47 after preferences, as the Parliament is officially dissolved with a bang. On a day, Anthony Albanese really needed a hug. Mark Riley, 7 News.
Melbourne Airport has been hit by another day of turmoil as school holidays and a Grand Prix exodus led to packed terminals and long delays. It's already putting travellers to the test and they're being warned it could last for weeks.
First day of school holidays and at Melbourne Airport, the queues began outside. Inside, families leaving for a break joined Grand Prix fans leaving town.
It's chaos. It's absolute chaos.
It's just a nightmare.
It's crazy. I've never seen it this busy before.
I wonder if we're actually going to make our flight this morning.
High demand combined with depleted airline and airport staff mean big delays. At Qantas, many of the team is home in isolation.
Around 20% on average, but in some areas it's high as 50%. And that's because of the COVID issue.
Despite facing backlash last week, the Qantas chief is still suggesting passengers are out of practice.
I think we're all a bit rusty in travelling. I know I am.
The Australian Services Union says the blame falls on Qantas for sacking workers. It was made worse when a baggage conveyor belt broke down, leaving suitcases piling up. And for a plane load going to Cairns, it was a holiday headache. Their flight cancelled just 70 minutes before takeoff.
There's a plane around, but there's no crew to fly it.
They're going to reschedule all of us tomorrow on a flight.
How's that leave you feeling?
Pretty crap.
Terrible. I mean, my kids are devastated.
Yeah, we're a bit grumpy.
It's fair to say.
There were 87,000 passengers coming and going from Melbourne Airport today. That's just down on Friday's peak of 90,000. The difference is today is largely people leaving town. It's our highest departures in more than 2 years. And another surge is ahead for Easter this weekend.
You know, it's exciting to see people travelling again out and about.
Paul Dowsley, 7 News.
And Melbourne's north and west could see rubbish piling up as garbage workers take industrial action. Paul Dowsley is in Brunswick this evening, and Paul, they're stopping work over a pay dispute.
Mitch, it's about to get dirty with some Cleanaway drivers walking off the job for 2 hours, both this Thursday and next Tuesday, and banning overtime. The Transport Workers Union is accusing Cleanaway of being dishonest and disrespectful as it negotiates a new enterprise agreement for its commercial waste drivers. The union says Cleanaway made unauthorised changes to the agreement and then put it out for a vote by drivers who service schools and businesses. So the council areas affected: Moonee Valley, Moreland, Hume, Brimbank, Wyndham and Banyule.
Given Cleanaway's approach and the possibility that they could look to roll this method out across a number of other contracts, we could see the dispute spreading to council or domestic waste.
I've heard back from Cleanaway in just the past 5 minutes, Mitch. They insist that they are being transparent in these negotiations and they have dismissed the claims of the union.
Paul Dowsley in Brunswick, thank you. A policeman could face jail if convicted for speeding at more than 200 kilometres per hour while responding to a car crash involving a colleague. He's been charged with reckless conduct endangering life, but he says it was justified.
Leading Senior Constable Bradley Beecroft is accused of putting lives at risk to help an injured colleague hit by a car. The police officer allegedly hitting speeds of up to 230 kilometres an hour. It was less than a year after 4 police officers were killed on the Eastern Freeway. He travelled in circumstances where he believed he might be met with police officers in a critical condition or worse. Bradley Beecroft and his colleague were the closest unit on patrol in Violet Town when they got the call. The Highway Patrol vehicle overtaking 77 cars in the 7-minute drive along the 9-kilometre stretch of freeway. A fixed speed camera allegedly detecting the officer at 207 kilometres an hour.
His state of mind as to the condition of his colleagues is very relevant, but the reality is the court's going to have to look at the totality of all the evidence.
The officer claims his Gold Class licence means he's exempt from speed restrictions. Emergency services are currently being criticised for taking too long to attend jobs. I'm being criticised for getting there too fast. When the leading senior constable arrived at the crash scene, investigators say he provided first aid treatment to his injured colleague before the man was taken to hospital with bruising. Reckless conduct endangering life carries a maximum sentence of 10 years behind bars. Cassie Zervos, 7 News.
Our Grand Prix is being celebrated as a mega success that's put Melbourne back on the global stage and drawn record crowds. Ferrari fans took their party to Lygon Street to savour their thrilling Formula One win.
Melbourne's home of Ferrari turned red. For its busiest night in 3 years, foot traffic on Lygon Street up 120%.
People just packed the streets to the point where they had to block off, the police came and blocked off the street because there were so many people. It was more like a nightclub actually last night.
We did not expect it to be that busy, I'm not gonna lie. Like the staff were actually struggling to keep up with the customers.
Images of the Grand Prix party were beamed across the globe. A record-breaking crowd watched Charles Leclerc's win at Albert Park.
And these celebrations are but just the beginning.
We've shown that we deserve to be on the international stage when it comes to sporting events.
Melbourne's blockbuster weekend from soccer to comedy.
It's very clear now that Melbourne, Victoria, is open for business.
The crowd crush did present some problems, commuters facing lengthy waits for public transport, ride shares surging to more than triple the usual rate. The government adamant it's part and parcel of a large event.
When you've got a massive crowd, there are going to be some challenges.
The race to bump out has already begun. The event takes more than 2 months to set up, but just days to clear the majority of the track and return it to local sporting clubs.
Organisers are already looking to the future, adamant Melbourne will always be the home of the Grand Prix.
There's no other place in Australia to stage this race, and that's why it's here until 2025 at the very least.
Rochelle Brown, 7 News.
The official opening of a bridge across the Murray River today has exposed a big rift between the Victorian and federal governments. Deputy Prime Minister Barnaby Joyce clashed with State Transport Minister Jacinta Allen over infrastructure spending.
A jointly funded $323 million Murray River Bridge, officially opened, but definitely no celebration in these faces.
Hang around if you want to get some bad press. Just get right in there. Get right and close.
Victoria is furious at Canberra's infrastructure funding.
We're going it alone on the Metro Tunnel. We're going it alone on the Westgate Tunnel. If these were projects in New South Wales, we'd be getting 50% funding.
The response, confusing.
And as this nation wants to go forward and buy nuclear submarines, then we must also invest on behalf of Victoria in such things as Port Hedland.
Ms Allen says Mr Joyce refuses to meet her.
I simply remind the Deputy Prime Minister that Victorians are Australian taxpayers as well.
Phones work in both directions last time I checked.
It degenerated into a political circus.
I can't let that go. OK, let us quickly go through. This is how important regional Australia is to the Labor Party. What party are you with?
The Nationals.
What party are you with?
Liberal Party. To be on the same team.
And now we're going to go. Now we're going to go to the Labor Party candidate. Excuse me.
We're not politicising this.
Crickets.
Eventually, the bridge opened to traffic with a vintage car cavalcade. For the people of Echuca, this should have been a day of history. They were frustrated it got bogged down in politics.
I was disappointed to see that happen. It sort of marred a bit the excitement of everybody else.
Nick McCallum, 7 News.
There's some good news tonight on a police officer injured in a tragic crash at Mildura. Tegan Doling has the details, and Tegan, his condition is improving.
Mitch, leading Senior Constable Thomas Canane is slowly on the mend after he was flown here to the Royal Melbourne Hospital in a critical condition following Friday night's crash. But he is now doing slightly better and is in a stable condition. His colleague, Senior Constable Briar Joyce, and Ute driver Josh Moore died when the two cars collided. Now, police are still coming to terms with the tragedy. Today, the Chief Commissioner, Shane Patton, as well as the Police Minister, Lisa Neville, travelled to Mildura. They met with Senior Constable Joyce's family and her colleagues at the Mildura Police Station. Mitch.
Tegan Doling, thank you. Russian forces are building up in Ukraine as another general takes charge of the attack. His reputation as the butcher of Syria has the world bracing for a new offensive and new brutality.
A convoy 13 kilometres long. Russian tanks lined up in eastern Ukraine, ready for a dangerous new phase of the war with a new general in charge. This is the so-called butcher of Syria, Alexander Dvornikov, dragged in by Putin after Russian troops were forced away from the capital Kyiv. Expect brutality, more civilian casualties, as payback for the 19,000 Russian troops who've died on the front line.
This general will just be another author of crimes and brutality against Ukrainian civilians.
The invasion is heightened in towns already decimated, Mariupol and the second largest city, Kharkiv.
Ukraine won the battle for Kyiv. Now another battle is coming.
But civilian fighters are confident, backed even by Australians.
Is that your real name, Joe?
Might be.
This is Joe. He's cagey about his background but did tell us he's from Sydney and is a public servant.
It's intense, yeah. The Russians love to use their artillery and they use it a lot.
When he's not picking up a weapon, he says he's checking vehicles for booby traps left by the Russians.
Swiss Army knife, you know what I mean? I'll butter your bread or I'll cut something.
We met Joe when he and other international volunteers showed up to help exhume bodies at a mass grave in Butcher. There are 67 bodies in this gravesite in the grounds of a church. The clean-up in Butcher has already started. Council workers and teams of volunteers shoveling away tons of spent ammunition and the remains of blown-up houses. As they clean up the streets, they take the war wreckage to a dumping ground in an open field.
On this little red sedan you can see the strip of white cloth across the roof, and they were flying that flag when the vehicle was hit. Their belongings are still inside. There's also some human remains have been left behind. If you have a look across this field, there are cars like that everywhere. Cars that people tried to escape in, some dying in the process. Have a look at this white van. Bullet holes have just raked down the side of it, and on the front, in Russian, the word for children.
There are more civilian cars here than fighting vehicles, with fears this war graveyard will be recreated in Ukraine's east in coming days. In Kyiv, Jeff Parry, 7 News.
Back home, a fast-moving grass fire has come dangerously close to properties north of Melbourne. At least 10 crews were called to the blaze near Seymour this afternoon, measuring around 10 hectares in size. Several hay bales were destroyed and farm machinery damaged. A smoke warning was issued for the area. A teenager has been reunited with her Kelpie after the dog was stolen from a parked car in Melbourne's west. Detectives are reporting a surge in dog nappings, with thieves making thousands by selling them online.
Addie, the stolen Kelpie, reunited with her frantic owners.
We're glad she's alive and we've got her back.
The 3-year-old pet was in the family car outside a shopping centre in Tarneet on Saturday. The window was slightly open and police say a man reached inside, unlocked the car and stole the dog.
I was devastated, and because it's my daughter's dog, she's just devastated and crying and angry.
It's believed the energetic Kelpie later escaped her captor before being found by an off-duty ranger. As Victorians return to work, pet detectives say they've never been busier.
We probably receive 100 inquiries per week.
Brazen thieves are targeting expensive breeds like Dachshunds and French Bulldogs, snatching animals in plain sight.
Thieves are targeting the yards of pets. They will take them from, if they're tied up from outside of a shopping centre, they will target them if they're in a car or if they're out on the loose, having escaped their own yard.
The Lost Dogs Home says Addie's case is a reminder to owners never to leave dogs unattended in cars. The much-loved Kelpie back in time for her owner's 16th birthday. Pretty good birthday present, Mia.
Yeah, no, gift that keeps on giving.
Jackie Quist, 7 News.
Delighted indeed. Tim Watson is here with a look ahead to sport, and Tim, a Demons premiership star is in trouble.
Mitchie's been charged with striking and faces a fortnight on the sidelines. Details shortly. Also, the Saints cool off after their hot start, but it is a nervous wait for Paddy Ryder after this brutal bump. Plus, Cameron Smith blows his shot at Augusta as a new Masters champ puts on the green jacket, and Mitch surfing legend Kelly Slater is in town. See how he went at Bells Beach today.
OK, we'll see you a bit later. Thank you, Tim. There's new trouble for a mother jailed for leaving her baby in a hot car. Next on 7 News, now she's accused of ripping off vulnerable Victorians. Also, a destructive night as a car ploughs into 2 cars and a house. The suburbs' hardest hit as property prices fall. And Rebecca Madden reports on the 80-year-old fighting back after a stroke. An elderly man has been taken to hospital after causing crash chaos in Brunswick. The 79-year-old's SUV hit 2 parked cars on Lygon Street just after 8 o'clock last night. He then ploughed into a garage, pushing a fridge into the bathroom of a home. Police say the Preston man was driving while suspended. A mother who left her baby in a hot car while she played the pokies is now an accused con woman. The Gladstone Park mum allegedly swindled more than $12,000 in an online scam.
Kaya Miller is serving a minimum of 12 months in jail for locking her baby in a car on a scorching 37-degree day while she played the pokies. Now the Gladstone Park mum is facing more prison time for fraud. The 34-year-old parked her car outside a Point Cook gaming venue in January 2020, where she left 14-month-old Easton strapped in his car seat, the windows up and no air conditioning on, for 5 hours. Miller lied about checking on her baby. CCTV revealed she only returned to the car at 3 p.m. to find him unresponsive, fighting for life. The toddler is now blind and suffers cerebral palsy. Late last year, while waiting to be sentenced over the shocking case of neglect, Kaya Miller is accused of netting more than $12,000 in an online scam, alleged to have pocketed 4 payments from innocent victims. If convicted, Kaya Miller faces up to 10 years jail, meaning she could serve more time behind bars for the online scam than she will for causing permanent brain damage to her son. Her lawyer told the court Kaya Miller has a raft of fraud charges that will be finalised next month. Jade Vincent, 7 News.
Property values in Melbourne continue to fall this year. A CoreLogic report has found almost half of the houses and units analysed recorded a dip in value in the first 3 months of 2022. Inner suburbs, especially in the east, have been hardest hit, but more affordable suburbs like Wyndham Vale in the west are still performing strongly. The parents of an 8-year-old girl are praising the Royal Children's Hospital for saving their daughter. It's just 4 days until the Good Friday appeal, and they hope everyone is inspired to dig deep.
Sienna Spiteri was just 6 years old when she suffered a stroke. 2 years on, she's made a remarkable recovery.
She was just playing normally and just started screaming and holding her left arm.
A blood clot was found in Sienna's brain. Then she was diagnosed with a rare cardiomyopathy. By the time she was transferred to the Royal Children's Hospital, Sienna was in end-stage heart failure. Her only hope, not one, but 2 mechanical hearts.
There's one for the right side of our hearts and one for the left. This is really showing us what technology can do.
In a paediatric first, doctors used a powerful anticoagulant made from leech saliva to prevent dangerous blood clots. Sienna's health improved. She learned to walk again and then received the ultimate gift, a donor heart.
You're obviously happy and over the moon that she's been given this special gift, but then you're sad for other parents that have obviously lost their child.
Sienna's new heart is beating perfectly and soon she will return home. The public's generosity to the Good Friday appeal helping save children like Sienna all over Australia and New Zealand.
This is the kid that she was always meant to be.
Rebecca Madden, 7 News.
Fantastic. The new week has brought a dramatic change in our weather. Sonia Marinelli, how long will the chill last?
Oh, Mitch, thankfully not that much longer, but boy, was it a big adjustment when we woke up this morning. A change swept over Melbourne as we slept, so the morning ground was wet thanks to some drizzly showers. It also opened the door and let in a brisk southerly wind that pushed out all the weekend's warmth and pulled in a wintry chill, the city hitting a Monday high of just 19 degrees. But if you're already pining for warmer days, they're just around the corner. Mitch, details after sport.
Sonia Marinelli, thank you very much indeed. The banks are hitting back at scammers. Ahead, the new moves to protect us from online rip-offs. Also, Victoria's hot seats. We ask people in marginal seats what will decide their vote. A surfer warning as sharks go on a feeding frenzy. And how dirty pond water could be the answer to helping sick children. If the federal election is a close race, it could come down to several key seats in Victoria and just a few thousand votes. Charnel Vella joins us this evening from Box Hill. And Charnel, you've been speaking to voters in Melbourne's marginal seats. What are the big issues for them?
Well, Mitch, no surprises being Victoria, the pandemic was a hot topic. Some of them very happy with the way Scott Morrison handled it. Others say states were given too much individual responsibility. The voters that we spoke to who were frustrated with the two major parties say they're looking to independence for change.
The third most marginal seat in the country, taking in suburbs including Box Hill, Burwood, Chadstone and Glen Waverley. Chisholm in the east is held by Liberal Gladys Liu. She won it by about 1,000 votes. Labor will consider this a must-win seat.
Morrison's got his drawbacks. At least we know what we're getting. I think Albanese, I'm not sure he stands for a whole lot.
I don't think this government is very good at managing crises, and we've had a lot of them.
I'd prefer an independent any day.
In Kooyong, Treasurer Josh Frydenberg is being challenged by independent Monique Ryan. The Bayside electorate of Goldstein is held by Liberal Tim Wilson, but he's also in a fight with an independent, Zoe Daniel.
The independents have emerged and they're a really interesting bunch. They're really advancing an agenda that the major parties aren't tackling or grappling with successfully.
One of those issues is climate change.
We're perfectly placed in Australia with solar, wind power to change the system. And, I just want something for my children and grandchildren.
Others say they'll stick with the Prime Minister.
They're the people that run the economy the best. I don't think Albanese represents anybody, and I certainly wouldn't vote for an independent.
While Corangamite is held by the Labor Party with a margin of 1%. They'll go up against Geelong Mayor Stephanie Asher. The seat of Deakin here in Melbourne's east has gained a reputation for picking election day winners. And at this polling booth in Nunawading South, voters have mirrored the mood of the nation at every election since 1993. One certainty, the political campaign ads have begun, and they'll be hard to escape right up until May 21.
It's going to be everywhere, both in traditional media as well as social media. I don't think people are going to be able to escape the election campaign.
Chanel Vella, 7 News.
Our banks are taking new action to protect customers from online scammers. The latest initiative will automatically block suspicious transactions, potentially saving $120 million a year.
Diet pills, nutrition supplements, online dating subscriptions. Just 3 of the most common online shopping scams.
These types of services can be difficult sometimes to really adjudicate true value of if a diet pill is really working or how many particular people might be on a dating website.
Now Westpac is trying to tackle those scammers before the damage is done, automatically blocking suspicious transactions from overseas retailers and notifying customers by SMS.
Almost all customers, when we let them know that we've blocked it because we have concerns about the merchant, they are quite appreciative.
It's then up to the customer to call the bank if they want to go ahead with the purchase. Last year, Australians lost more than $8 million to online shopping scams, with more than 20,000 separate complaints made. Shoppers aged 25 to 34 reported the highest number of scams, while those aged 35 to 44 lost the most money.
With scams on the rise, more businesses are stepping in to help, including Telstra, which recently launched an SMS filter to stop scam messages before they hit customers' inboxes.
Sharing experiences with friends and family can help.
The more we're talking about it, the more it becomes less of a taboo topic.
And know the red flags.
Are they calling me and creating a sense of urgency? Does it look like it comes from a person of authority? Is it a too good to be true type story?
Gemma Acton, 7 News.
A shark feeding frenzy has been spotted on South Australia's coast, with up to a dozen bronze whalers seen feasting on fish. Experts say it's common at this time of the year as schools of salmon migrate. Surfers have been warned to keep their distance. Dirty pond water could hold the key to saving the lives of some of Australia's sickest children. But there is a problem. The therapy can only be processed overseas, and researchers urgently need funding to bring it here.
Charlotte Potts is used to bouncing back. The 6-year-old is battling a chronic illness with no cure, cystic fibrosis.
She's expected to overcome a lot.
But there's a chance her body will resist the antibiotics that have so far saved her. Luckily, Australian scientists are researching an alternative.
I think it's a game changer.
It's called phage therapy, natural viruses found in dirty pond water that attack bacteria.
They make little microscopic armies inside these bacteria that then burst out of them, killing the bugs.
Phages are found in any kind of pond like this one, and summer is the ideal time to harvest. So scientists get out of the lab, literally pull on their wellies and get wet. Targeted human treatments are about to begin, but manufacturing the therapy can only be done overseas. What would it take to make it happen here?
A lot of money.
Around $30 million to change countless lives, like Charlotte's. Cyan Valance, 7 News.
An AFL legend is facing up to the health hangover from his remarkable football career. John Platten reveals what he has to live with next on 7 News. Also, a 4-year-old boy left unrestrained on a show ride. And why Victoria's principals are turning their backs on their schools. Exhaustion made worse by the pandemic is driving principals into early retirement. 1 in 4 Victorian teachers are leaving the profession due to demanding workloads.
We can't sustain the effort that teachers and principals and support staff have been putting in the context of the pandemic.
A third of principals have been threatened with violence. There's an investigation underway after a little boy was left unrestrained and at risk of being flung into the air while on a ride. It happened at Sydney's Royal Easter Show. His mother says her son could have died. Organisers blame a lack of training and have closed the ride while they work out how it happened. The boy was not injured. The Queen has revealed she was left very tired and exhausted by COVID. The 95-year-old made the admission during a video call to hospital staff and patients from Windsor Castle.
I'm glad that you're getting better, and it does leave one very tired and exhausted, doesn't it, this horrible pandemic.
For the first time, Her Majesty will miss Easter services. She will be represented by Prince Charles and Camilla. AFL great John Platten is so worried about brain injuries he's undergone new scans. The Hawks legend says he took part in an AFL study 8 years ago but never received the results. A concussion campaigner says for some past players it's a health time bomb.
John Platten had up to 36 concussions. The 1989 grand final a standout.
So John Platten is in trouble for Hawthorn.
I remember it now because I watched it, 89 grand final, so that's probably about the worst one. I can't remember, going to the ground.
The Premiership star runs a successful business, but worried bad headaches are getting worse. Platten had a MEG scan and MRI at Swinburne University.
Having the MEG test will give you more details, and probably it's a bit better than the MRI. What people have been telling me about CTE, these things do happen.
Researchers at Innovision in the UK finding 42 points of concern, consistent with brain-injured individuals.
I don't want to alarm a lot of people, but to get the results which I got was very confronting.
This isn't his first scan. Platten took part in a previous study offered by the AFL.
Probably the last scan I had was with the AFL was probably 7 or 8 years ago, and I haven't had a report back since then.
Peter Jess warning up to 500 past players volunteered, but are also still in the dark.
We are sitting on a health time bomb. They have not been told by the AFL, the AFLPA or Florey the outcomes of those scans.
Jess writing to the Players Association in this email asking for the findings.
There's been no diagnosis confirmed, no follow-up in terms of treatment. That to me is scandalous.
Tom Brown, 7 News.
Sport is next with Tim Watson, and Tim the Bump is back in the spotlight again.
It is, Mitch, and it's a nervous wait too for Paddy Ryder. We're live next with details from the MRO, plus Buddy set for surgery, while another big star is sidelined for months. Ollie Wines clears the air on his latest heart scare, the Masters meltdown that cost Cameron Smith a shot at the coveted green jacket, and why Mick Fanning's comeback could be short-lived at Bells Beach. Welcome back. The Demons are facing another week without star forward Ben Brown, who's been suspended. Laura Spurway is live with the details. And Laura, this incident was in the VFL at the weekend.
Well, Tim, he'd only just returned after being in COVID isolation. Now he's been slapped with a 2-game suspension for striking. The incident off the ball in the VFL was assessed as intentional, low impact and high contact, but it can be downgraded to 1 week if he puts in an early guilty plea. Meanwhile, the bump is back in the spotlight after Paddy Ryder's hit on Will Day, which left the young hawk with concussion. The MRO has spent all day deliberating on this. Ryder is expected to be sidelined for up to 2 weeks, despite apologising immediately as St Kilda prepares to back up after their big win.
Cooling off from their hot form against the Hawks, the Saints credit fitness for their 3-1 start to the season.
You haven't been able to do it the last couple of years where you get on top of a team and we almost pull the handbrake up, but we've been able to put the foot down and keep going.
The captain believes his star forward is far from maxing out his scoring potential.
I don't think we're too far off seeing a game where he does do that for 2 or 3 quarters and really, kick a bag.
St Kilda say there's no pressure and still no time frame on a return for Zach Jones. Relief for Port Adelaide's Ollie Wines, cleared of myocarditis and any serious heart condition.
It was more a heart rhythm issue that is pretty common in elderly people and elite athletes. It's been really reassuring that it's something that's actually pretty common. So, the prognosis is really positive.
Wines will miss this week for more tests. Swans forward Buddy Franklin will be sidelined for up to 3 weeks, needing surgery on a fractured finger.
To obviously no one's to replace Lance is still an important role for us, so we feel like we've got a couple of players to be able to do that.
Sydney to take on West Coast, whose nightmare continues with Nick Naitanui ruled out until the second half of the season with a knee injury.
We're going to find a way to keep working through it and keep working on that adversity piece, but disappointing for Nick.
Meanwhile, Bulldog star Bailey Smith continues to be a man in demand, fans doing anything they can to get his autograph at the Grand Prix. Laura Spurway, 7 News.
There's calls for former players to break away from the Players Association. Live to Chief Football reporter Tom Brown. And Tom, there's a suggestion there's a conflict of interest.
Tim, John Platten is a case in point of a former player dealing with complex concussion issues. There's a lot of former players dealing with complex and expensive injuries. And speaking to concussion campaigner Peter Jess this afternoon, he thinks there should be a separate Past Players Association, explaining the current players will get a windfall under the collective bargaining agreement, which is coming up this year, and the past players' interests aren't necessarily directly aligned.
With the new CBA coming up, what we've got to do is divest the control of the past players from the AFLPA because of that massive conflict of interest, and we must set up a new group.
Jess thinks our heroes are the bedrock, our former heroes are the bedrock of the riches of the current state of the game, explaining about 96% of the current money goes to the current players, only about 4% to the previous players. He thinks they should get the previous players' bigger slice of the pie, Tim.
Thanks, Tom. Cameron Smith says he'll use his Masters heartache as fuel to come back stronger. A triple bogey at the 12th ended Smith's bid to become our second green jacket winner. He finished tied for third, 5 shots behind winner Scotty Scheffler.
On Masters Sunday, one bad swing can ruin everything.
Just hasn't quite been my time yet. A couple of lucky breaks here and there. And I'll be putting the green jacket on, I'm sure, one day.
Back-to-back birdies to begin the final round had Cameron Smith within a shot of the lead. But those lucky breaks went Scotty Scheffler's way.
Oh, is that any good?
Smith got back to within 3, then it all unravelled on 12. The triple bogey 6 ended the Aussies' charge.
I'll grow from this and be stronger for it.
Rory McIlroy shot a course record equaling 8 under 64 to jump above Smith into second.
Anything's possible.
That's especially true for Scheffler, who 4-putted the last and still won by 3. From winless on the PGA Tour to world #1 and Masters champion in less than 2 months.
I'm kind of glad I had a little hiccup there on the last hole. It made me a little less emotional so I can get through this interview.
Tiger Woods finished in 47th, his worst result in 24 visits to Augusta. But just getting here, 14 months after nearly losing his leg in a car wreck, a victory in itself.
It was an unbelievable feeling just to have the patrons and the support out there.
In Augusta, Georgia, David Woywood, 7 News.
Mick Fanning's Bells Beach cameo could be short-lived. Out of retirement to chase a record 5th Bells title, Fanning finished last in his opening heat and now faces the elimination rounds.
Hopefully I can put on a better show because that one was pretty embarrassing. I love Bells. Everything was feeling really good. Walking down the stairs, running around the cliff.
Kelly Slater's through to the 3rd round, eyeing the same record. Paddy Ryder in a bit of trouble?
Yeah, probably.
He did everything he could to avoid it, didn't he?
Has someone got a sore head?
That's right, you're in trouble there.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you very much indeed, Tim. Sonia is next with the forecast. And Sonia, give us something to look forward to, please.
Oh, Mitch, just one more chilly day, then we're turning the warmth and the sunshine back on as we head into the Easter break. Stay tuned. Details next.
Tonight on the latest, our team of election experts join us for in-depth analysis. We cross to LA ahead of Johnny Depp's defamation trial starting soon and counting down to New Zealand's reopening just in time for Easter. A report from Wellington. Those stories and every breaking development tonight on the latest.
Victoria's Little Miracle.
All the story starts now.
How a family day out turned into a nightmare.
I just screamed.
The extraordinary surgery to rebuild an 80-year-old skull and give him back his life. Only on 7 News at 6.
Good evening. A change moved in as we slept, so the weekend's magnificent warmth was pushed out by a cold wind. And we not only woke to morning chill, but light drizzly showers, which cleared out later in the morning. We started the new week on a low of 14 degrees, but it was a really short climb from there, the city peaking at just 19. And this is your live look outside right now. The night sky partly cloudy and the city is holding on 15 degrees. A band of drizzly showers passed over Geelong, then over Melbourne early this morning. But the main feature of this system wasn't the rain, but it was the wind. We picked up a chilly southerly with the strongest gusts blowing in as that change arrived, then picking up again late this afternoon. So even though we're sitting on around 15 degrees right now, the feels like in most spots is as cold as 11 or 12 degrees. That change tracked out to the east during the day, pushing the chill and the showers into Gippsland and up into the northeast. And there have been some thunderstorms just brewing along the eastern ranges around Mount Hotham, but that system is now clearing Victoria. At the same time, we've got a dry area of high pressure that's moving in behind it. That's going to stick around through the week, setting us up for a mild run of weather as we head into the Easter long weekend. But our cold front now pushing showers up into the east coast. That means another wet few days ahead in Sydney starting tomorrow. But it is dry, warm and sunny for those lucky enough to be holidaying in Brisbane at the moment. Cool but dry in Hobart, a lovely 25 with sunny breaks in Adelaide, and also for those in Perth. To Victoria now, we're still under a southerly tomorrow, so that's going to keep some cloud around. The cloud working hand in hand with those cool winds to keep Tuesday's maximums low right across the state. It is a dry day with the exception of some showers lingering over the eastern ranges. Closer in, and Tuesday, almost a repeat of today. We'll start under some cloud and in that cool wind, but we won't get the drizzle, and we should see the sun breaking through during the afternoon. But it'll be too little, too late to boost the mercury. The temperature drops as low as 9 degrees in Scoresby, then most spots rising to around 18 or 19 degrees. So Tuesday starts on 12 degrees in the city, then we're heading for a high of 18, cloudy and a chilly autumn day with that breeze out of the south. But we won't have to wait long for the sunshine and the warmth to return. By Wednesday, mostly sunny and 21 degrees. We're rising to 25 on Thursday in a warm northerly and lots of sunshine. At this stage, Good Friday is dry with a chance of a shower, most likely arriving later at night. Then Easter Saturday is looking great, 25 degrees and partly cloudy. Easter Sunday even warmer. Look at that, 27 degrees before another cool, wet change arrives early on Monday. And that outlook makes tomorrow a little more bearable, just 18 degrees under cloud for your Tuesday. But Mitch, it's still early days, but isn't Easter looking absolutely fabulous?
A low of 18 on Saturday night.
Yeah, and 27 degrees a high on Sunday. How good is that for timing?
Easter Bunny has nothing to complain about.
No.
Thank you very much indeed, Sonia. Now here's what's on Sunrise tomorrow.
Thanks, Mitch. Tomorrow on Sunrise, Australia's Lonely Planet Discovery.
500 unmissable experiences across every state and territory in the new Ultimate Travel List.
See you in the morning, Melbourne.
And that's the way it is this Monday, the 11th of April. Thanks for your company. For now, from the 7 News team, good night.